Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking through some player props I like on Prizepicks for this Week 12 NFL slate. We are going to be looking at the Sunday slate in this video, so all the games that are happening on Sunday, and I got 3 props that I like for this Week 12 slate. So as always guys, before we talk through these 3 plays, if you guys do enjoy these Prizepicks videos, if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel and if you don't have an account over on Prizepicks, you can sign up for Prizepicks, linked down below in the description. Or just when you sign up, make sure to use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for Prizepicks with my promo code. And I do also want to shout out Sleeper because we do have a partnership with Sleeper. And if you guys don't have an account over on Sleeper, you can download the Sleeper app either on the App Store or the Google Play Store. If you have an iPhone or Android, they do have an app for both. Download their app, sign up, make a deposit, and use that promo code NOAH over on Sleeper. You will also get your first deposit matched up to $100 over there. Now, if you don't know what Sleeper is, they're an app very similar to Prizepicks, and they're very similar to a lot of these other DFS pick'em apps that you do see around the industry. But Sleeper, they do offer payouts up to 100x. So if you're one of those people that really like to chase those high payouts, you can do that over on Sleeper. You can make up to an 8-pick entry on Sleeper. You can win up to 100x your money. Sleeper does offer a lot of the major sports like NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, college football, all that stuff. So if you guys want to check them out, you want to see, take a look at their products, see what they have to offer, see the potential entries you can win, potentially win up to 100x your money. Do that over on Sleeper. And again, if you don't have an account over there, use that promo code NOAH, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's talk through this Prizepicks slate, guys, and 3 props I'm liking over on Prizepicks this week. We're going to be looking at some fantasy score props that I like. So we're going to be specifically looking at 3 fantasy scores. And the first one I want to take a look at is going to be Derrick Henry, 13.5 fantasy score here, going up against the Panthers. And I do like the over here, so more than 13.5 fantasy score for Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick Henry is in a really, really good spot here at home against the Panthers. This is arguably the best matchup you can get as a running back this season. Because if you look at where the Panthers rank, I mean, they have just been getting killed by the running back position. They've allowed 14 rushing touchdowns, the most in the league. They're allowing the second most fantasy points per game to running backs, only behind the Broncos. And if you look at Henry's game log lately, he's gone under the last 2 weeks. But that's just largely been due to the fact that the Titans have been playing from behind a lot these last few weeks, and that has resulted in Henry getting less usage. Henry is mainly going to be out there when the Titans are playing from ahead and when they're running the ball. When they're playing from behind and they have to play catch up and they have to throw, usually that's going to be Tajay Spears that gets those snaps and not Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick Henry will still get some usage in the passing game, but he's definitely not a guy that they're going to throw the ball to a ton. But if you look at the games this season where they've won, so games where they've either been playing with the lead. So week 2 against the Chargers, Derrick Henry, they won that game. Derrick Henry had 25 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. He also had 3 catches for 15 yards. When they won against Cincinnati, Derrick Henry had 22 carries for 122 yards and a touchdown. He also had 1 catch for 11 yards. And then when they won against Atlanta, 22 carries for 101 yards, 4 catches for 21 yards. So pretty much his splits are pretty drastic this season in games that the Titans win versus when they lose. Now, they've had some games recently, like this game against Baltimore they lost. He still had a really good game. Against Pittsburgh they lost. He still had a really good game. But like the last 2 weeks, they've been playing from behind for like a larger majority of their games. The Tampa Bay game, they lost 6-20. The Jaguars game, they lost 14-34. Well, this is a game at home where the Titans are favored by 3.5, so we should expect them to be playing with the lead in this game. And that should mean plenty of carries for Derrick Henry. I think his rush attempts prop is set at 16.5 this week, so the books are expecting him to get around 16 carries, if not more. He should be very efficient in this matchup against the Panthers. Like, this should definitely be a spot where Henry is able to average 4 or 5 yards per carry. I like a lot of his props this week. I like the over on 69.5 rushing yards. I like the over on potentially his rush attempts. If you want to take him to score a touchdown, you could do that. But I've always said I prefer looking at fantasy score over touchdown. Now, sometimes it'll happen where you take a guy over fantasy score and they score a touchdown and they still don't go over their fantasy score. But I would be willing to bet more times than not if Henry gets into the end zone, he's going to probably finish with more than 13.5 fantasy points. And I think there's been plenty of games this season where he hasn't scored a touchdown, but he has still put up at least 13.5 fantasy points. And I definitely think this line's a bit too low here for Henry in this good of a matchup. I mean, if he's going to project for 70 rushing yards, he's projected for 2 catches, he's projected for 10 yards. Like you add all those numbers together, I mean that's 10, 11 fantasy points right there without even factoring in potential touchdown equity. And I think he has a lot of potential touchdown equity in this matchup against the Panthers team that is allowing the most rushing touchdowns to running backs this season. And I was looking at some DFS projections. This is something that I like to do. Compare projections back to Prizepicks. So Sleeper, they do have fantasy score projections on their site. They currently have their line on Derrick Henry set at 14.5, so they're a point higher than Prizepicks. And then the DFS projections that I subscribe to, that I use for my own DFS play, they have Derrick Henry currently projected for 15 fantasy points. So this line of 13.5 definitely feels a bit low on Prizepicks. This is a first play that I do like for this week is Derrick Henry, more than 13.5 fantasy score. If you want to take rushing yards, I don't mind that either, but fantasy score is the prop that I like most for Henry. Next play we're going to look at is going to be another fantasy score, another running back fantasy score, and we're going to look at DeAndre Swift, 12.5 fantasy score, and this is another over that I like, so more than 12.5 fantasy score for DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift, really this whole season, he has been great for the Eagles, and he's pretty much been their clear go-ahead, number one running back, because if you look at the snaps, just this season at the running back position for the Eagles, Swift is pretty much playing like 60, 70% of the snaps almost every week. Kenneth Gainwell is going to back up DeAndre Swift, but he's been just kind of getting like spot touches here and there. And then the Boston Scott's barely been playing. Rashad Penny's been inactive almost all season. So it's going to be really Swift and Gainwell getting all the touches at running back, with Swift being the clear lead back. I mean, over the last 4 weeks, Swift has played 68%, 70%, 65%, and 64% of the snaps. And he's been getting really good usage. He's been getting plenty of carries. He's been getting usage in the passing game as well, which you really like to see. Anytime you're taking an over on fantasy score for a running back, it's always good if the running back can catch some passes, because those points add up. You get the reception points, then you get the points for the yards as well. In the last few weeks, 3 catches, 31 yards for DeAndre Swift. 2 catches, 31 yards. 2 catches, 7 yards. 3 catches, 13 yards. In their game against the Jets, he had 8 catches for 40 yards. Like, they've been using him a lot in the passing game, and he's still getting a lot of carries as well. 15, 16, 18, and 12 carries over their last 4 games. So he probably projects for like 15 plus touches here, if not more than that. The Eagles are a team that they like to run the ball. I think this is a matchup against Buffalo where they should be able to, I don't want to say get a lead in this game, but this should be a game where the Eagles probably have a little bit of a lead. They are favored by 3 here at home. And even if they do get behind, like even if the Bills come out and put up a lot of points right out of the gate and the Eagles are playing from behind, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we've seen them use Swift in the passing game, and even if they get behind, he'll still be out there catching passes. So he's kind of a game script proof running back. He's getting involvement both on the ground and through the air. The only thing that sucks with DeAndre Swift is that we know that if the Eagles get down to the 1 yard line, they're gonna do the tush push and they're not gonna give the ball to Swift. So Swift's touchdown equity is not it's not super high, because in any goal line situations, he's not getting the ball. They're just gonna run a QB sneak with Jalen Hurts. But he could still hit this line without a touchdown. He's done it plenty of times this season. He has found the end zone though in 2 of their last 3 games. If we project him for what is his rushing yards prop at? 58.5. We project him for 55, 60 rushing yards. We project him for a couple catches, 15, 20 receiving yards. I mean, that's going to put him at around 11 fantasy points, and that's going to put him almost over this line. There's definitely a chance that he catches more than a couple passes. What if the Eagles get behind like they were in that game against the Jets? And that was the game that DeAndre Swift had 8 catches. There's a possibility that could happen here. But just the usage Swift's getting right now, the role he's had with this team, this Eagles offense is really good. They're able to move the ball down the field, so they're going to be in plenty of red zone situations, plenty of scoring situations. And I know Swift's, again, his touchdown equity is a little bit lower just because of the tush push, because Jalen Hurts getting all the touchdowns. But if they get inside the 10, inside the 5, those balls could still go to Swift. It's just when they get down at the 1, it's going to Jalen Hurts, which always sucks if you have Swift. If you have Swift on your fantasy team, you're probably frustrated about that. But I definitely think this line of 12.5 fantasy score for DeAndre Swift is a bit low. And if we look at Sleeper right now and where they have their fantasy score on Swift, they have their line set at 14.1. And then the DFS projections that I subscribe to, they currently have their line on Swift at 15.5. So this line of 12.5 feels a bit low on Prizepicks when multiple sites have Swift projected for 14, 15 fantasy points. So that's the second play I like this week. And then the third and final play I like, another fantasy score prop we're going to look at, Justin Watson, 5.5 fantasy score. And I also like the over here, so more than 5.5 fantasy score for Justin Watson. Now, if you look at Justin Watson's game log, you're not going to see much green because he's not really been involved a ton this season. But if you look last week in that game against the Eagles, that was a game where Justin Watson actually saw, I think he saw 11 targets in that game. 11 targets. He had 5 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. He's only been getting around 3-4 targets a week so far this season. But what's really interesting is that if you look at the snap counts for the Chiefs, if you look at the wide receiver snap counts, to start the season, Justin Watson was only playing 30, 40 snaps a game. Last week, he played the most snaps he's played all season, 63% of the snaps. He got up to 50 snaps. He actually led the wide receiver core in snaps played. He outsnapped Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He outsnapped Sky Moore. He outsnapped Rashee Rice, outsnapped Kadarius Toney, and McCole Hardman. It is worth noting that McCole Hardman is out this week. The Chiefs, they are going to use a lot of different receivers. They're probably going to have 5 receivers active for this game, but they will be down 1 receiver with McCole Hardman out. McCole Hardman did play 16 snaps last week, so maybe Watson plays a few more snaps than he played last week. But given that he led the wide receiver core in snaps played, I don't know if he's technically their wide receiver 1 right now, but he played the most snaps last week. In the last 2 weeks, he's played 63% of the snaps. Now, sure, Justin Watson could play 65, 70% of the snaps, only get 3 targets and have 2 catches for 20 yards or something. But if you're telling me we're going to get a wide receiver 1 playing 60+% of the snaps with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, I'll bet on this guy getting at least 5.5 fantasy points. I mean, for him to hit this line, all he has to do is get a couple catches for 25 yards. If he gets 3 catches for 25 yards, that's 5.5 fantasy points. That's very easy to hit. I was also looking at his receiving yards. You could take that if you wanted to. I definitely think that line, he could hit that line if he's out there as much as he's been the last few weeks. But this line of 5.5 definitely feels a bit too low on Watson. If we look at Sleeper right now, they currently have their line on Watson set at 7. So they have their line a 1.5 higher than Prizepicks. And then the DFS projections that I subscribe to, they currently have their line on Watson at 8.5. So they're actually 3 points higher than Prizepicks here. Again, I'm not saying Justin Watson's a great receiver, but he's playing in a really good offense. The role's been increasing for him. We talked about Jameson Williams on the Thanksgiving Day slate. We took his over 4.5 fantasy score just because his role has been increasing. He's been playing more snaps, and I think he had 2 catches for 50 yards or something. He went over that fantasy score line on Thanksgiving. That's kind of the same thing here with Watson. I don't think Watson's the best receiver by any means, but he's got a really good quarterback. He's playing in a good offense, and the role's been increasing for Watson, playing 63% of the snaps the last 2 weeks, led the wide receiver core in snaps played last week. If we're getting a wide receiver 1 with Patrick Mahomes at 5.5 fantasy score, I'll take the over here more times than not, especially when a lot of the other sites have Watson projected for 7, 8 fantasy points. So that's the third and final play that I do like for this week, guys, is Justin Watson, more than 5.5 fantasy score. And these are 3 props I like for this Week 12 NFL slate over on Prizepicks. If you guys are going to be tailing me on these 3 plays, hopefully we can hit all 3 of these plays and make some money this week. As always, though, appreciate you guys checking out these Prizepicks videos. Make sure that if you enjoyed, you hit that like button down below. I do always appreciate the likes. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you guys are new to Prizepicks and if you don't have an account over on Prizepicks, you can sign up, use my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for Prizepicks with my promo code. But good luck this week, guys. Thanks as always for watching the videos and supporting the content. Appreciate you guys' support. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.